Hello everyone, in this video I've prepared another Uplifting Trance track and I'll be walking you through it. And the cool thing is this one I've made available for you to grab it for yourself, to explore it at your own pace and really see how it's made. Let's just start with the arrangement and the organization. So I've color-coded everything. We've got here the red kick, we've got a kick and reverse kick, and then we've got some drums, and then we have the bass line, the bass instruments. We've got some sort of textures, some pads, some plucks in green, and then we have strings in this light blue color, and then we have the pads that are playing in the drop, as well as the leads, and then finally some effects. So in terms of this arrangement, this is about a 6-minute track, sort of the extended mix style. So we have your extended beats here for 32 bars, and then we come into the main beat section in the introduction for 64 bars, and then we have a break where we introduce the melody, and then we have a drop, a small sort of bridge section, and then we transition out to the outro beats for another, I think it's 64 bars, slowly fading out all the instruments and having that time for DJs to mix in and out. Maybe I should just play you the part of the drop, and then we can go from there. So this is the kick that we have. It's quite a punchy kick with a nice low end. And so what you sometimes hear in these uplifting trance tracks is this reverse kick. So what I did was basically grab the kick. I can just do it here if I just play a kick like so, and then hit bounce in place, and then from here we can reverse the sound, and if you do that, you would get something that sounds like this. So together sounds like this. To go with the kick, I've got a couple of drums here. So we have like a top loop, and then we have the typical sort of claps. This is actually made out of 3 different clap layers inside a drum machine designer of Logic. And they've got, again, just some EQing, just cut off. I didn't really need all this low end, so I cut that off. A little bit of sidechain as well. Very, very tiny amount, just to take out a little bit of transit for the kick to shine through. Again, here just for utility purposes. And then for the clap, we've also got hi-hats, just open hats. Again, the same EQ structure. Close hi-hat as well, with a little bit of tremolo, just 14%, just to give it a bit more width, and some additional stereo information. And here as well, it's every 16th, but I think I use the random velocity function in Logic, just to give it a little bit of a groove, not everything constant all the way through. Together it sounds like this, with the top loop as well. Some more loops. And then in this section, I'll introduce a bit more hi-hats. There's also a fill here. Oops. So this actually plays without the kick. So after, I think it was 8 bars, sounds like this. Another thing is to not have your kick play all the way through, otherwise it's too boring. So here, just a 1 bar fill before the next set of 8 bars come in. In the introduction, just the hi-hats, and then slowly bring in the percussions before we get to the last part where all the drums are playing. Moving on to the bass line, the drop sounds like this. So quite basic. We've got a sub layer, just playing again this sort of rolling pattern. This is made in Vital. Simple sub bass. This is also included with the package as well, all the presets. And then we have another one, sort of a mid bass layer, same pattern, and another one, just giving a bit more grit, more texture. And you might have noticed actually that I've made a copy of the mid bass, or mid bass 2 drop. And this is just so that I have more control. It's easier for me to control what happens to them in each of the sections of the song. So clearly in the drop, I wanted to EQ them differently, just to make a bit more space for all the other sounds that are playing. So here, as well as cutting the low end from to that is in the fight with the sub bass, there's also a bit more EQ in the highs, just to make room for the lead to shine through and not having it be drowned by the bass line. And on the bus, it's just the compressor, just to glue everything more together. And then in the other sections of the song, we have basically the same thing. And also actually the mid bass second one is actually playing a slightly different pattern, where we have the second note of the pattern being an octave up, just to give it more movement as well. And then in the introduction section, I also have this bass sort of stab sound. So this is again made in Vital. I've only used one VSC in this project, which is Vital, which hopefully makes it easier for you as well. So there's a EQ, which I've used to cut the lows, cut this sort of frequency, which I found was quite adding to the muddiness of the sound. And there's also a high cut, which I've automated here, as it slowly fades away as the intro section comes to an end. And then, apart from that, there is also this bridge section, where I've changed the bass pattern to an offbeat bass. And for that, I've decided to switch up the sound a little bit with this layer. Again, this is made in Vital. And I've also raised the sub bass an octave up, have it play with the original sub bass. This one just makes it so that the sound is a bit more audible. And then as we get to the extended outro, I sustain that first chord, or the first root note. In terms of the automation for the bass line, most of them are sort of EQ automations. So for example, at the end of the introduction section, I wanted to slowly reduce the low end from these bass instruments to where we have a more calm section, where the only bass now playing is this Reese bass, which just plays the root note of the chords. And yeah, and also what I like to do in the extended introduction and the outro is just to slowly filter in or filter out the bass line. So you can hear the low end slowly coming in. Same here at the outro as well. And after the bass line here, I've got an acid roll sort of sound, which I actually bounced out. And then just for this section, there's a bit of gain, volume automation. And this just adds a bit more texture to the bass line. But it doesn't play all the time, just plays at the end of every 16 bars. Again, a little bit here as well in the outro. And then I've got two sort of texture patterns. So these are from Logic's Alchemy plugin. They're default presets that you can find. In terms of the processing, just a low cut, both of them, and then a direction mixer just to spread it out in the stereo field. So it sounds, it's quite quiet in the mix, but it sounds something like this. There's also what I like to add is a piano ambience. So it just plays one note in a repetitive pattern. With a lot of reverb, I like to use this one, Valhalla Supermassive. It's free reverb as well. So it gives it a nice ambience. And when it comes to the melodic elements of the introduction, we have sort of like a arpeggiated melody. It's repetitive in nature in this first instance, and then we transition to playing the actual main melody. The pluck also meaning vital. The automation here, I also have a low cut as well as a gain before it the sound becomes more full after the end of the extended section. There's also a supporting one. Plays just a little bit different with a bit more movement. And here we have the automation itself in Vital of the modulation wheel. So automate this wheel here. I've linked it so that it sort of opens up the sound more. And also here there's a reverb automation. So it sort of fades out in a nicer way. They do actually play the main melody in the bridge. As opposed to a more saw type of sound, a plucky sound just gives it a nice contrast when they move to the bridge section. In terms of these two sounds, they are similar in nature, but they play the melody slowly coming in the break section, so you can barely hear it, but the mod wheel is slowly opening up. As well as this other layer, I'm also having the wheel opening up. And also the low end is slowly coming back in. I have the same thing, but I bounced it out and then added a. I think this is So this is for the reverb and also for the delay. So I like to use this delay, sort of like an echo delay plugin, and then this reverb, just to sort of drown the sound out as it gets towards the drop. And then a nice little addition I had is this white noise. It's basically a white noise in Vital, with a tiny bit of reverb and a gain, and then EQ. I get the just for the very high frequencies, boosting that up a little bit actually. It just plays the melody, and it just gives it that extra sort of transient to the overall sound. And as the melody is opening up, I've also got this pad that also opens up, again with the mod build link to it in Vital. I've also got, again, a low cut, and just cutting out about 1.3K, where I think the lead sounds were most prominent, so it doesn't fight with that. Also in the break section, there are some strings. Which is actually gated using this plugin from Kilohertz. It's a trance gate setting with about 80%. And in addition to this, the other elements of the break is the piano playing like a top melody. It actually also plays another melody as well after coming out of the beat section, as well as a chord, the chord progression in the first loop, just before we introduce the melody and have that lead break. A sound that I haven't really talked about is this set of like saw type sounds, which starts off a bit more plucky, and then it opens. So they actually play the main melody, but sort of in like a chord form instead of an arpeggiated form. So it's a good way to introduce the main melody, so the listener is not too surprised when it actually comes. And it starts alongside the plugs I've talked about before, but as the plugs sort of reduce in volume and gets filtered out, this sound is slowly also fading in at the same time. So by this section, this sound is now the dominant sound. And this one is composed of two sounds from Vital passed to a sum with a low cut EQ, Logic's saturation plugin, some OTT, some delay, and of course sidechain, but also it's passed to this bus for reverb, so you can hear it. And the trick I use here is to use compression, sidechain to the actual sound itself, and this basically effectively sidechains your reverb, so it doesn't make it so that the sound is drowned within the reverb. Let's see if I can show you. So if I over saturate it a little bit, this is with the sidechain, this is without. So now let's move on to the drop pads. So like the name, they mostly just play together in the drop section, but they also in part play in the beat section as well. So for example here, we have this trance pad playing in the background, and then we move on to the vocal pad. So altogether it sounds something like this. It's composed of 4 sounds, so a sub layer, this trance pad, a vocal layer, and a choir. So this choir is from Logic's default library, and the vocal pad here is also gated with the same plugin setting, just a little bit tweaked with the controls as the strings, and altogether they compressed a bit of OTT again, the same saturation, and then also another sidechain compression, this time to the leads, so that when the lead is playing, the pad sounds are sort of ducked, so that it makes more room for the lead to really shine through the mix as a dominant sound. And then as we get to the leads, this is the main melody. And it's composed of a couple of layers, so if I just show them for you, a noise layer like before, just add a bit of transient, a low and a higher layer of the same sound. This layer, more like a big sort of wide super saw. A bit of sort of synthetic sort of vocal sound. This sharper layer, plucky layer. And sort of saws that just helps to increase the width of the sound. So altogether, sounds like this. Just adding width and warmth to the sound. They all have their own respective sort of EQs, some a bit different than others, just to shape them so that the sound serves its specific purpose. And altogether, in the sound, there's a compression, a bit of OTT, just a little bit. Again, another EQ after the compression. Again, I wanted to increase maybe the warmth of the sound, and as you can see, just then a high shelf EQ so ducking the melody when this comes in, like a top layer, another gated sort of trancey layer, just to make room for that. Yeah, and then obviously some sidechain, and also here a return bus for some reverb for the leads. And in this second loop as well of the melody, there's the piano comes in and the strings comes in. And the acid plays the transition to this bridge section, where we have the same melody played by different sounds. And as for the effects, we have a couple of effects. We have this sort of like a drum effect. We've got like a vocal hit. I like to include them in some of my songs. So they're basically chopped up from a sample. Some delay, OTT, a lot of reverb, some sidechain, and obviously some gain for utility purposes. We've got crashes as well, and white noise for some impact on the transitions. There's also these more like a low-end, heavy impact sounds, just to give it more significance to each transition. There are risers and snare rolls to help with the transition. This is from the beats to the break, and a bigger riser for the drop. And to add more detail to the song, I have these glitch sounds that you might be able to hear in the mix. So they just make the track that little bit more interesting, make it a bit more unique. So these are sort of maybe what you like to call ear candy elements. So these really help to make the track interesting, even though you might not really hear them in the mix. So there's a nice addition I like to add to some of my tracks. And that's pretty much it. That's all the elements that come with this song. I did try to keep it more simple, so hopefully it's easier for everyone to take a look and for it to be very useful. So yeah, that's the track. I hope you find it useful and that you can get some tips and tricks. And it's available now, so you can grab it for yourself. Have a play around with the presets, and hopefully it can help you come up with some new ideas and finish your songs quicker. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.